Today's episode is about fighting weaponized poverty. Someone once said that when you fight corruption, it fights back. The same goes for fighting weaponized poverty. In Nigeria, there are people who benefit greatly from poverty, and they will fight to their last breath to keep the status quo. However, for the rest of us who suffer from it, we are sick of poverty and we want out. In Nigeria, aside corruption, I've highlighted three major evils of weaponized poverty, namely money, land, and oil. I will consider three approaches to fighting weaponized poverty, namely the governmental approach, which probably may never work, the communal approach, working together as a community, and the individual approach. Let's discuss the governmental approach. Someone once said that if you can only be tall because others are on their knees, then you have a serious problem. Now, I know that the ruling class is not stupid. After all, as Nigerians, we have brilliant minds working all over the world. If the government wanted to fight weaponized poverty, they can do so in many ways. One way is to enact and enforce anti-discriminatory laws. This will check classism. You should not be allowed to oppress your workers or neighbors just because you have more money than them. We're all Nigerians, and we should have equality in the eyes of the law. Next, the government can enforce and adjust living wages periodically. If a person works for you full-time, they should be able to live on a safe monthly salary, not just survive. If you cannot afford to hire a human being and give them dignity, then you shouldn't be allowed to do so. Get your friends and families to drive you around or clean your house for a slave wage. See how they like it. Next is population control. We all know that our resources are limited. We don't have unlimited oil or unlimited land or unlimited jobs. Therefore, the government can help to guide birth control through incentives like free education and free food for a family with 2 kids or less. Also, in this part of the world, many people rely on their children for support in their old age. The government can provide this support to the elderly. Alongside family planning and birth control, the government can secure the borders, hereby controlling the influx of people from neighboring countries to compete with citizens over the little resources available. Just like the Westerners are doing, but not as extremely. The government can provide free and fair elections to ensure that poor people have adequate representation in government. The government can also offer massive re-education campaigns because poverty is a mindset and politicians have turned it into a tool to manipulate and to exclude. There is also a need for Pan-African partnerships, so citizens can trade and share solutions across the African continent and not move our resources to Europe. Speaking of wealth drain, platforms like Netflix or DSTV should not compete with our local Nollywood productions. Pioneer has built the Nollywood industry from scratch. Nowadays, streaming platforms are taking all the wealth out of the country through subscriptions. I say this as a filmmaker. If we cannot bring back DVDs and cassettes to 51 Irikwa Road, Onitsha, or 7 Pound Road, Aba, then let the government develop its internal streaming platforms and local cinemas. Development should never come in the form of wealth drain or gentrification. We need to save our local jobs and industries. We should bring in more jobs, not chase them away with harsh policies like we are currently doing. I say all this in hopes that we someday have a corruption-free environment to see it through. But ideas can only work if some elements of the government is not benefiting from weaponized poverty. But quite frankly, I have zero faith in the governmental approach. Abused people do not gain freedom through the kind hearts of their oppressors. So this approach may be hopeless. In my opinion, some administrations are money-milking machines, a relentless tax collector that will fight aggressively to keep things the way they are. So let's move on to the communal approach. One of the best ways to fight weaponized poverty is to do so as a community. I think it is wild that a few families and the government have claimed up all the land in the country, and we have to buy or rent from them to grow our food, eat, or exist. It's not fair, but it's the world we live in, because some people have decided it. But for the communal approach to work, we need land, a communal land. The thing is, money is a problem. It encourages a few greedy people to hoard all the wealth. But if we do away with money, then they can't hoard all the potatoes and tomatoes and all the perishable wealth. We need to start growing our own food and trading it with others. Yes, I mean trade by barter. We need to take care of ourselves, do away with money, and cut out the tax collector by just sharing food. We need to begin to share knowledge and create niches with specialties. We can do this by inviting specialists to come in and educate us as a community. Think about it. If Yaba is known for fabric production, and Ikorodu is known for food production, and Ikeja is known for milk production, then these predatory companies would have to plead to come into our communities to use our resources and hire our already skilled sons and daughters. My point is that companies in such communities would have to pay well to entice local skilled workers to leave their trade and work for them, thus eliminating the slave wage. We don't need their money to survive or to educate ourselves. They need us to make a profit. So it's time they start treating us with some respect. Next are cooperative societies. They are good because they won't tax your savings, nor would they raise interest rates or ask for unreasonable collateral to give you money to support your business. The banking sector in Nigeria is becoming overregulated and profit-oriented. We need to begin to break away. We need to remind them that they invited us and our parents to bank with them. After all, our forefathers hid their money in cow horns and clay pots. The banks came promising interest and security. Now, they offer neither, only bank charges. We survived without them once, and we can do so again. Let us bring back our old ways and modernize it. There is no reason for the money in your savings account to be taxed for just sitting there. There's no reason to be taxed for transferring money from your savings account to your friends and family. Now, let's take a few moments to talk about protests. When we organize protests, we need to classify attendees into two groups. The talented 10s, as mentioned earlier, those with the charisma and the education to lead the protests. These are the model citizenry. Then there are the plants, those who are injected to disrupt the movement. Sensitive information should only be shared with the talented 10th, while generic information like venues and dates should be for the whole group. Identifiers like colored shirts, bands, or plain colors should also identify protesters and separate them from the plants. I'm not a fan of getting a police approval before leading a strike or peaceful protests. However, Identifiers can be communicated to the local police at the last minute to separate protesters from plants and hijackers. This delayed information prevents the cloning of identifiers within a short period of time. Protests need to be strategic, and communications during protests should be gated strictly on a need-to-know basis and at the last minute. Otherwise, the movement may be compromised by politicians and political thugs. Finally, there's the individual approach to fighting weaponized poverty. Think about it. Can there even be a movement without individual efforts? We need to ask ourselves whether we want to be a part of the talented tent or part of the herd. We can do this by electing proper representatives who share our cause. We need to have people representing the poor people's interests in government. We can only do that by voting in a free and fair election. Next, we need to be actively involved, both physically and digitally. Stand up for your neighbors, because if it happens to them, it can happen to you. Join peaceful protest with identifiable organizers. Let such organizers articulate if there's free legal representation for illegal arrests. Register and wear identifiers and do a head count. The last thing you want is to be arrested illegally at a peaceful protest and nobody knows where you are. Next, fight back with how you spend your money. Boycotts work if everybody does it. If a brand or public service is bad, identify it and join the boycotts. Don't go behind everyone's back to buy it secretly because it doesn't concern you. Trust me, your time will come. Who will fight for you when injustice touches you too? Join in peaceful boycotts and protests. You have that power. Together, we need to redefine who serves who in a democracy. The people don't work for the government works for the people, and we need to remind the ruling class of that. So, with the current state of things, can we end weaponized poverty in Nigeria? My answer is, it depends. It depends on you, it depends on me, it depends on every honest and hardworking citizen out there who has the power to do the right thing. Which is why I will be going out there to talk to more people to share their experiences and solutions to weaponized poverty. With that said, I will talk to you in the next episode.